Hey, welcome back to the channel. My name is Darnell. I'm the Compromise Audiophile. And I wanted today to give you a little background on me and how I ended up here. It's a complicated story. I started off like a lot of people do, completely opposite of what someone who is typically into this hobby or into this space is. Very anti. Um, Someone who looks at all of this with a lot of skepticism, doesn't necessarily want to spend a lot of money, and believes that with the way electronics constantly evolve and improve over the years, whenever you buy something, it's just going to become obsolete in a couple of years anyway, and you're just kind of throwing your money away. So that was my trepidation, if you will, for this whole thing. But I did have a soft spot for surround systems. I had tried to do a surround system many years ago, almost 20 years ago. I did what's called a home theater in a box. It was a 7.1 system. This is long before 4K video and HDMI and streaming services and all the stuff that we have now. This was back when there was just really the big thing was HD, if you could get it. As a matter of fact, I had a cable channel back in the day called HD Theater. That was a pretty big deal for me. But that's to give you an idea of when I first tried this out. And like I said, it was a 7.1 system from Onkyo, Theater in a Box. And I'll be completely honest with you. It was a horrible experience. I had speakers all over the place. I had wires all over the place. I tried to set it up in the living room, not much different than what you have behind me, and it just didn't work. I downgraded that system, if you will, like I just kind of reverted it back to a simple 5.1, tried to make it as functional as I could. And that's the system that I had for many years, up until the point where the PlayStation 5 came out. When the PlayStation 5 came out and I ultimately decided to switch to the PlayStation, overnight, that gaming console rendered my entire system obsolete. It was HDMI 2.1. It had no optical out, and it featured 4K video with up to 120 hertz refresh rate, which is gaming content or specs, if you will. But needless to say, everything that the PlayStation could do, I couldn't do. And so once I got that thing in my house, I realized if I was going to get the most of it, I had to upgrade everything. And it started off very, like I said, anti. Like I wasn't really trying to do too much, but I had to get another TV. That was the first obstacle because the TV that I had didn't even do 4K. So I had to get another one. And I was upset about that because I had purchased that TV a couple of years prior, and I was generally happy with it, but it didn't do 4K, and I thought at the time that wasn't going to matter until it did. And so I talked to a friend of mine, and he told me to buy a LG OLED TV, which at the time was one of the best TVs on the market. Actually was the best TV on the market. And to this day, LG OLED TVs are the best TVs on the market, at least at their size. So I bought that TV. I didn't know anything about TVs. quite frankly, I didn't care. All I knew was that PlayStation 5 needed 4K video to do its best. And I subscribe to the idea that if I got it, I want whatever it's going to get me. Whatever, get the most out of whatever it is that you're buying. If you're going to buy into it, buy into it. Go for it. So I bought a new TV. That's the TV that you see behind you, that LG 77-inch C10 OLED, which like I said, at the time was the TV to get, pretty much. And it snowballed after that. And I say all that to say, once you decide to go for it and go for it properly, meaning you bought into this premium experience, whatever it's gonna be. And this particular case, this was video entertainment. There is a level of experience that you can get that is beyond your wildest dreams. All you have to want to do is see what's on the other side. That legitimately was my curiosity. Once I said, okay, I'm going to buy this TV, I had to buy another AVR receiver because I needed that HDMI 2.1 to match. And so I bought that. I also bought some new speakers to go along with that AVR because the old system was pretty crappy, to be honest with you. And then I started looking and seeing that, oh, this AVR, it supports something called Dolby Atmos. What is that? How is that going to make this experience better? Guess what it does? It does a lot. And so I started off with a 5.1 system. I added an upgraded subwoofer, massive dual 15-inch tower subwoofer. This thing is a beast, okay? It will shake my whole house if I wanted to. Slot loaded, thing weighs 200 pounds and is 2,000 watts. It is a monster subwoofer. And I love it. I absolutely love it. It's a game changer as far as my experience goes. So have that, jumped into the Atmos world first with a set of high mounted speakers. They're called height speakers. And then transition from those into a set of in-ceiling speakers and having 4 of them. So I went from a 5.1 into technically a 5.2 because I added a second subwoofer, which is a different conversation. We're going to deep dive into subwoofers on this channel as well. But I went from a 5.1 to a 5.2 to a 5.2.2, adding surround speakers, or excuse me, adding height speakers, Atmos speakers, so I could do this whole Atmos thing. And once I got to that point, I realized that I was on to something. Those height Atmos speakers really transformed my experience and gave me a level of like a theatrical immersive experience that I hadn't had before. And I knew that there was more to it than what I was experiencing. So I transitioned from 2 channels on the height to 4 and using in-ceiling speakers instead of the height speakers. And that was another step in the experience. Once you have 4 Atmos speakers, you can deliver that real height immersion. You really need at least 4, 2 in front of you, 2 behind you. You can get away with 2, and we'll talk more about that later, but 4 is really where it's at. And if you can get them in ceiling, That's the sweet spot. So from a 5.1 to a 5.2.4, and the only thing that was left to do to really round out that experience was to revisit this idea of having 7 speakers instead of 5. And by 5, I'm talking about the ear level speakers that are around you. 3 in the front, 2 in the back. 7 has 3 in the front, 2 behind you, and then 2 on either side. So I thought long and hard about whether or not that was something that I really wanted to do, because this is a living room type space, even though it is in the basement, and I don't have 4 walls. And I was really, really worried about whether or not you could even pull this off. The first time I tried many, many years ago, it was a disaster. Speakers everywhere, wires everywhere. Nothing was calibrated. Nothing sounded necessarily good. It was just, it wasn't it. Is it really, really going to make a difference going from 5 ear level speakers to 7 ear level speakers? And can you do that in a room and it not look crazy? Because the first time, like I said, it looked crazy. And the answer is yes. Yes, you can. Take some planning, take some coordination. Some rooms can pull it off. Other rooms, maybe you can't, and that's okay. That might be a compromise too far. You have to balance the form with the function. If you get too much function, the form sacrifices and the room looks a little crazy. In my room, I can pull it off mainly because the rear speakers, which are my old front speakers, and they sit far enough back in the room to where, while you do have a bunch of speakers in my room, it's not ridiculous because the rear speakers are far behind you. And those little side speakers that you can see behind me, I've kind of placed them in a way where they are there, but not obnoxiously there. And believe it or not, it works. Is it perfect? Gosh, no, not at all. It's not so obnoxious to where you can't live with it. But if you're curious, if you're one of those people out here who have a traditional 5-channel, 5.1 setup, and you're curious about this whole Atmos thing and about whether or not it really is worth it, resounding yes. Resounding yes. It transformed everything that I experienced down here. Gaming, which was really, really, really surprising to me. Gaming down here is completely transformed. I don't game as much as I'd like to, but when I do, it is a fantastic experience. And little things, you'd be surprised the amount of just regular shows, regular content out there. I don't have to necessarily subscribe to watching a movie to get that theatrical experience. Just regular shows that are recorded to have that kind of cinematic feel. Awesome experience. And this channel is mainly for people who are curious about that. Because I was. That's how I first started off. I didn't know anything about it, but the fact is that once I started buying gear to support the PlayStation, that gear in turn supported this premium audio. And I was like, all right, let's see if it's all that. And now look at me, I'm on YouTube talking about it. So yeah, it's all that. We're going to talk more about what a lot of this stuff is, but I wanted to kind of give that historical context of how I got here. And the second point to all of that is when you see people on social media who have home theaters, whether or not they're in the living room spaces like I have, or maybe even they're, true dedicated theaters. Those people don't necessarily give you the journey on how they started. Chances are the system that they're showing you is not the system that they started with. It is a process. This is not my first system. This is not my first rodeo. Even down in this basement space, this is really the third iteration, and now it's a 7.2.4. For those of you who know surround specs, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And for those who don't, like I said, we'll talk more about that. But that's a process, and that's just in this current home. The setup I had in my previous home was different. The setup I had even in my old apartment was different. And I started with a system that was completely different 20 years ago. That was a theater in a box. It's pretty interesting when you look at what I started with versus what I have now. But my point is that all these people are on a journey, and all journeys start with a first step. If you see someone set up and you like, oh, that's a great setup, I can never get there. You can if you want to, but you don't have to make that be your end game. You can just start off simple. Even if it's only a 5.1, when set up properly, 5.1 is an amazing experience. Dolby Atmos is its own thing. I mean, it's an elevated experience over that. But the point is that if you've got the itch, scratch it. See where it takes you. You'd be surprised. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see more, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell and all of that stuff. It helps me grow this channel. But even if you don't do that, I appreciate you taking the time to just watch this video, period. That really means a lot to me. Thanks, and I'll catch you on the next one.